it's New Year's, right? And you got tons of New Year's resolutions. You have all these resolutions that you're doing, and this is such like a cliche thing to talk about the first sermon of the new year, but it's so true. Like, we all go to Publix or whatever store you go to, and you're waiting to check out, and you're looking at all the magazines, and it's like, new you in 2019, right? Like, here's the best dieting tips so that you can get that body that you always wanted. And this year, you're like, well, I'm going to watch that TED Talk that's going to really inspire me to be really good in my job, be the best family man I can be the best retired person that you can be. I don't know what that means, but you know, like that's all these things. It's like it's the new you in 2019. Like that's what I want, and it's something new, and we love that kind of aspect of the new year. It's like a little ritual that we do, that we're like, yeah, it's this something new that's we're ready for this something new. That idea, that kind of microcosm, is kind of where Luke wants you to be in his story about Jesus, as he wants you to experience who Jesus is, what he says he does, and what he's doing. Like that, he wants you kind of right there. And to understand this something new, Luke he's doing something new, but he's like reaching way back in time, right? Like so he first talks about this the temptations, right? The temptations. He's in 40 years, which sounds like the Exodus, right? Like that's, and I talked about that in Sunday school, and I got an eye roll from this section over here. Like when I said the Exodus stuff, because I always talk about Exodus. Like that's, if you want to understand the Gospels, you got to understand Exodus too. Like that's, and so, but so the Exodus, he goes in the wilderness for 40 days, and then the devil tempts him, right? And he tempts him in every way that we are tempted. He tempts him with hunger, with the bread, right? He tempts him with powers over the world, and he tempts him with power over God by testing God whether he would save him or not. And basically we're kind of left with this, seeing that Jesus, he is the one, he's the true Israelite. He's the true good one of God. That he is the true one, that he hasn't fallen to temptation like we all have. He hasn't eaten that Snickers bar on your diet yet. Like he's the one that has continued going forward. You know, and we see, you know, that this happens, and his ministry begins. And his ministry really begins as he walks into this synagogue in Nazareth, in the town where he grew up in. And they had, you know, worship like we do, and they have the readings that are all scheduled out. And he comes, and I'm sure he read a bunch. Remember when he was a child, he read a bunch and all that stuff in services and stuff. And I'm sure he read a bunch there. And so he gets the scroll of Isaiah for the reading that day, and he opens it up, you know, and he looks at it. And he reads this. And he says, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim liberty to the captives and the recovering of sight to the blind, and to set liberty those who are oppressed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." Like, this is amazing. Like, he has come to be there for the poor. He is the one who will liberate those in jail. He has come to heal the blind. He has come to be there and help those who are oppressed, right? To rest from their labors through him. Something new is coming. Restoration is coming. And Jesus is that something new that's bringing that restoration. And he stands up and goes, "Today, this has been fulfilled in your midst." And we're all like, yippee, right? Like, it's like, yeah, Jesus. Like, this is unreal. Like, this is wonderful. We get all excited about this. We're amazed. And we're like, yeah, this is something new that we're talking about. See, look at this Jesus. He's doing all of this great and wonderful things. It's like us being excited about our new diets that we're all on for 2019. Maybe not you all, but me, this diet that I'm starting tomorrow, right? And that's and we're like, yeah, this is going to be the new you in 2019. It's going to be great. It's just something new. But Jesus keeps talking. And this is my problem too. I'm not comparing myself to Jesus, but I kind of am right now. Like Jesus keeps on talking. Everyone's happy with him, and it's great. But oftentimes people are happy with me in conversations, and then I keep talking, and they're like, ooh, I don't like you very much now. And it's the same thing that happens. There's other people laughing. You feel the same way. I get it. Like that's and they're like, ooh, like it's like you should have stopped talking 20 minutes ago, right? And Jesus keeps on talking because he defines who all these people are: the poor, the captive, the blind, and the oppressed. He defines who those people are. Like, everyone was fine when they understood that they were those people and that he was coming just for them. They were fine with that. But he keeps on talking, right? And he's not, and he keeps on going. And suddenly he uses two things from their history. He talks about their two beloved prophets, Elijah and Elisha. And I've been making this promise for like a year. We're going to do an Elijah and Elisha sermon series at some point. I don't know. It'll probably, you got to hold on for like 3 years for me though. Like 2019 is already planned all the way through. So this has got to be, maybe 2019 we can make this happen for you, because these are amazing stories about how God and through his Spirit was empowering these amazing prophets of Elijah and Elisha. But did you catch when I was reading the stories that Jesus used? He talks about Elijah in 1 Kings chapter 17. He says there was this terrible famine all through the region, and there were widows and hungry people that were Israelites, and God sent Elijah to a foreigner. And people were like, oh, right? Like, what are you talking about, Jesus? You know, he's talking too much, right? And then, just so that you didn't think he stuttered and misspoke for a second, he goes, then Elisha in 2 Kings chapter 5, by the way, on those questions, these two stories are there for you to read. Then Elisha talks about the story about Naaman, who's from Syria. And he, yes, that's Syria. It's an old country, and he's from Syria, and he's a warlord basically. He's like the best guy ever, but he's got leprosy. And Jesus says, just to dig it in just a little bit more, he says there were plenty of people in Israel that had leprosy, yet God sent Elisha to the Syrian that had it. How do people respond to that? Like, they're like, once you may fool me, Jesus, twice, no way. And they all become basically a lynch mob. And they grab him and they go to take him and throw him off of a cliff. Like, they grab Jesus and they want to throw him down because he defined who the oppressed, who the poor, and it wasn't who they thought it was everybody. It was everybody. And they got upset and they wanted to kill him. So, the fine people of Grace Lutheran Church in Port St. Lucie, I could talk right here and everyone would probably be happy with me, or I could continue going and make everyone mad. But I don't know. Let's decide if I need to keep on going. What does this mean for us today? Who is Jesus saving? And you got to think about this. This is something that is old. He goes back to the prophets, to 1st and 2nd Kings, to pull out these stories about how God cares not just for the people that you care about, but for also he loves the people that you cannot stand. He loves those people. And in history, we've seen that when he is by the Spirit working through the prophets, that he is actively bringing love and restoration to those people that you cannot stand. And these people get upset. Who can you not stand right now? I mean, this message, Jesus talking about there, like just imagine like World War II times. Jesus would be like standing in France or Britain talking about the restoration of Adolf Hitler. People probably would have gotten upset at him, right? I can pick on things today too. Like just after 9/11, someone stands up and starts talking about the restoration of Osama bin Laden. That's difficult, right? That's super difficult. And that's why, do you understand why people suddenly got angry? And we're like, yeah, you need to be thrown off of a cliff, right? It's difficult. It's difficult. But Jesus is doing something new. Think, what's today, Epiphany? Those kings that brought the 3 gifts, they weren't Israelites. They were other people coming in and bowing down to the true king that was born, right? This is a story that has gone through the entire Bible. And it's just so easy to miss it. And it's so easy to miss it, and then we get angry at Jesus for loving the people that we hate. Or we get mad at ourselves or something like that, because it's like our New Year's resolutions, right? Like that's, you get about 3 weeks in, and you're reading something online, like a blog, I don't know what or a magazine or something like that, and you're reading something like Forbes last year said that 8% of people failed their New Year's resolution by the end of, 8%, 92% failed their resolution by the end of January. Are you part of the 8% or are you the 92%? What side am I on? Daisy there, be nice to me, right? And like that's the whole thing is that we end up hating the very thing we know that will make us better sometimes, right? It's like I can't stand to eat one more salad made out of kale with this terrible salad dressing that I have to eat on it, right? I want iceberg lettuce with just like cheese and ham and like ranch dressing all over it, right? That's not healthy. Like iceberg lettuce is just a thoroughfare to get ranch into your system. You guys know this, right? It's just big ranch trying to get you to eat there, right? And you end up hating that resolution. You hate it because it's asking you to become something new. And what we have to realize is that the same with our resolutions is the same with Jesus coming in and bringing something new. And I think there's something inside of us that we know this instinctively. That in order for that new thing to happen, something has to die. Like think about it with your New Year's resolutions. Like if you diet, your gluttony has got to die, right? If you're going to go to the gym and exercise, your laziness has got to die. I got to get on that bicycle. I'm getting too big for my britches, right? Like the budget, your excess spending has got to die. And that's the whole thing, is that we see a microcosm of Jesus' ministry where he talks about the love of the Father for all the nations of the world, and people get upset and they know that something has to die. And that's what we end up seeing at the end of Luke, is that it all kind of boils together to all this angered fervor is facing towards Jesus. And he says, I'll just take it all. Just give it to me. Just give it to me. Take it all. All the hate that we have towards our neighbor who likes to mow his lawn at 9:00 at night, like all of our hate that we have for the people that cut us off, all the hate that we get because we watch too much cable news, all the hate that we get inside of us because we can't stand the people that would vote for that president or for that other president that was before him, all that hate that we have for those people that would do all those nasty things, Jesus took it on and he allowed it to kill him and he took it away from us. because something had to die. Something had to take it away. And he uses the stories of the history of God's people to show that when God's at work, he's bringing restoration to everybody, even the people we can't stand. But he doesn't leave it there with the death. He ends up rising again, and he's bringing us into that new light and life. And as followers of Jesus, let's love that light and that life of the love of God for all people, even the people we can't stand. I wrote a bunch of endings for this sermon. None of them did a good job. They're all mediocre at best, right? I had good law. That was good law just then, right? But I was like, and then I read a sonnet, a poem from this guy named Malcolm Guite. And it's called Jesus Falls the Third Time. It's written for, the Lent, end of Lent. And I read that and I was like, that's what I'm trying to get across. And it took a poet to get it across, because what I think Luke is trying to get us to see in the Jesus experience, what he's trying to get us to see is that it's not about us and Jesus making us more powerful, but us realizing that we are down below. I'm just going to quit explaining it. I'm going to read this to you. It's three slides. He weeps with you, and with you he will stay. When all your staying power has run out, you can't go on. You go on anyway. He stumbles just beside you when the doubt that always haunts you cuts you down at last and takes away the hope that drove you on. This is the third fall, and it hurts the worst. This long descent through the darkness to depression, from which there seems no rising and no will to rise or breathe, or to bear even your own heartbeat. Twice you survived. This third will surely kill. And you could almost wish for that defeat, except that in that cold hell where you freeze, you find your God beside you on his knees. That's what Luke's experience is trying to get you at. To when you're in the lowest point, God is on his knees with you. And I think that's enough gospel right there.